So my name is Elena Milova, and I work with the Life Extension Advocacy Foundation, which is a charity organization headquartered in New York City. Our main activity is to support research on aging and therapies that address the underlying mechanisms of aging in order to make our lives healthier and hopefully longer. To do that, we also developed a crowdfunding platform, Lifespan.io, and as of now we have gathered around $300,000 in support of 7 research projects. As crowdfunding is all about engaging the public, we are also doing our best to educate as many people as we can about the possibility of using rejuvenation therapies to intervene against aging. Around a year ago, we started the Rejuvenation Roadmap, which tracks the development of therapies that address the different hallmarks of aging. And before I get to the main topic of my talk, I would like just to remind you very briefly where approximately we are in this process. The first 3 columns represent studies in animals, the next 3 show clinical studies on humans, and the last column indicates that a new drug or a therapy is reaching the market. So, as you can see, we only have prototype solutions for 4 of the main hallmarks of aging out of 9. So that means that a complex therapy to achieve negligible senescence in people is still pretty far away, and many people who are alive today will not make it, and even my generation can't really feel safe. So our lives can depend on how much we can achieve as a community in the next 15 years. And my question is, what exactly do we need to achieve? As you know, the primary bottleneck in rejuvenation research is funding. The best source of funding is the government, obviously. But sadly, in the absence of public demand for rejuvenation treatments, officials prefer to allocate the money elsewhere, namely to study single age-related diseases. And therefore, to achieve a significant change, the public has to know enough to understand that aging can be manipulated, and that it's highly desirable to cure the diseases of old age and to radically extend health span and lifespan by intervening in aging. Therefore, the life extension community has to run a large-scale information campaign, and the numbers in this regard really matter. So here is the problem. The problem, always the same, it's funding, as well as for rejuvenation research, as well as for advocacy activities. The healthy life extension movement is mostly represented by small and relatively poorly funded organizations, LEAF included. And although this seems like an insurmountable obstacle, there are multiple ways to inform millions of people about the promise of rejuvenation research without spending a lot of money. We can leverage our position effectively if we fulfill 3 conditions. First of them is the right message. Second is attention to number, the scale of our projects. And the third one is infrastructure. Just a small reminder to all of you that the beginning is a very delicate time, so really when we introduce the topic for the first time, we really need to make a very good first impression. So what's the right message? There are many sociological studies on how people perceive different messages about the possibility of life extension. First of all, most people don't know what aging actually is. So when we're dealing with a new audience, we really have to begin with the basics, explaining aging and its hallmarks and their relation to the development of age-related diseases. And we also have to explain how exactly rejuvenation therapies are going to work, which means explaining that they're going to extend healthy period of life, reverse or postpone some age-related damage, and allow people to live longer as a side effect of better health. Unless you explain these fundamentals in advance, people will keep thinking that aging cannot be manipulated, and that you're basically talking nonsense, so you can't really get to a productive discussion of rejuvenation biotechnologies if people just don't understand what you mean. Second, sociological studies show that some words and expressions are really poor choices because people interpret them in their own ways. The most critical examples are the expressions like life extension and longevity, both of which can be used outside the context of actually improving health. That's the worst case. We humans are wired to make simple extrapolations. So when someone offers to extend life, people are imagining themselves as being 80 years old, unhealthy, frail, and obviously they dislike the idea of extending life in this quite miserable condition. So it's better to avoid these expressions and to only talk about extending healthy life or about healthy longevity, or speak about postponing or curing diseases, which in my opinion is the best option. Another unfortunate word is immortality. I really cannot underline it more. Not only because of its religious background, but also because pop culture pictures immortals as bad people with criminal inclinations, and the public just don't want to identify with them. And that was actually, once again, proven in sociological studies. So this is actually what science says. There is this belief, for some reason, that our ideas are too innovative, too radical, too complicated for the public, and this is why they are rejected in many cases. But this idea of rejection, of misunderstanding, is actually not true. Sociological studies show that when appropriate framing is used, the idea is widely accepted. This means that we must explain our ideas with words that people interpret correctly and that don't provoke rejection. To illustrate this, I want to show you just a couple of surveys. As you can see, when you ask the right question, 1/3 of the population is on your side right away, without any explanations, without any details on where exactly rejuvenation technologies are right now, what's the process of development. Such surveys were done in several countries, in Russia, in the United States, and it's always around 1/3 of population who is supportive of the idea of healthy life extension, and it's a radical life extension, which means people embrace the idea of extending their life by several times. So Lifespan.io has run its own survey among people who follow longevity groups on social media, and we have found that the more information you give, the higher is likely the level of acceptance. Big thank you to group Longevity Technologies, it's our partners who helped us to organize the survey. But once again, I want really much to underline this thing. When people get access to more and more information on a regular basis, and information about rejuvenation research, apparently they become much more supportive of the idea. It means that our society actually has a huge potential, and our mission is to find out how actually to use this potential, how to engage these people. There was a similar survey from 2015 in the United States, in which arguably there was a heavy involvement of people from the community, and as you can see, once again, they received pretty much similar results. Quite a lot of people were supportive of the idea of radical life extension. So why is there this belief that the society en masse is against the idea of life extension? I actually have a hypothesis of how this belief is first created. It involves a vicious circle. An activist meets a new audience, uses the wrong message, gets rejected, tries to pressure people, and then gets even more rejected and goes away quite irritated. Then this is repeated with another group and over again. And this kind of negative experience creates the belief that we are surrounded by enemies and that people who are able to understand us and support us are quite rare. In turn, this makes activists ready to be quite aggressive when promoting the idea, which then does not allow productive communication and actually can even aggravate the vicious circle. One very bad result of such an approach is actually the demotivation of quite a lot of activists just because of this amount of negativity that they are facing on a regular basis. Sadly, I know quite a few people who dropped out of activism for this reason. I think that rejection is largely a self-fulfilling prophecy that is provoked by the use of an approach to education that actually breaks the very principles of education. Its result is a paradoxical situation in which 1/3 of the population is able to admit their desire for healthy life extension right away, even without an in-depth explanation, but activists are unable to harness this potential just because they are committed to an incompetent approach. So, if you recognize your experience in this scenario, please stop blaming the public. The public is not the problem, and you should probably consider refining your methods instead. It's okay to make a mistake once or twice, but we cannot really afford to remain counterproductive and perpetuate this vicious circle ourselves. On this slide, I list just a few sociological studies that offer a little bit more information about the public perception of the ideas of a healthy life extension and about the methods of better communicating our ideas. I highly recommend reading all of them if you plan to be engaged in promotion among the general public. But this is not all, obviously. There are much more studies, and this is great because I think that it makes a wonderful foundation for our decision-making regarding communication strategies. Now, to the next point, numbers or the scale of your project. To achieve a turning point in how society perceives aging, we need to reach millions of people. The United States has around 320 million, Russia has around 140 million, and the European countries may seem a little bit modest, but anyways, we're talking about tens of millions of people, so how we can reach all of these people without a budget? Well, there are some ways. A couple of years ago, Keith Hamid, our president, started to collaborate with big YouTube channels that publish popular science content and already have an audience of several million people. Lifespan.io's collaboration with the YouTube channel Kurzgesagt, which has 7 million subscribers, led to the creation of 2 short movies about rejuvenation biotechnology, and each of these movies as of now has around 4 million views. A recent collaboration with the YouTube channel Life Noggin, which has 2.4 million subscribers, led to the creation of a short movie about, once again, rejuvenation biotechnologies, and so far it received around 300,000 views. We're very proud of that. So now Keith is developing yet another collaboration, and this time this is with a popular news channel, the Young Turks. They have 4.2 million subscribers on YouTube, and several days ago he was invited to an interview with the host of the channel, Cheng Uyghur, and the interview about the development of rejuvenation biotechnologies right now has around 75,000 views. There are popular science channels and science-friendly TV channels in most countries, in fact. So this experience is easily reproducible. You can ask Keith for kind of a networking advice, but I can give you a spoiler for what he'll say. He will tell you just to be very persistent and highly professional. The second workable strategy is to educate and support reporters who work with major media companies by providing them with news and reference materials, helping them connect with leading researchers, and even volunteering to make footage for them if they cannot come to an event due to financial limitations that media companies sadly also have. In 2018, Lifespan.io contributed interviews of experts at the Ongoing Aging Conference to a longevity program produced by the Russian television channel Star, which has a daily audience of more than 3 million people. Our collaboration with expert journalist Anna Dobryuha from Komsomolskaya Pravda led to a series of articles and interviews from the Ongoing Aging Conference as well. And I must mention that Komsomolskaya Pravda actually has 24 million readers online. Of course, it doesn't mean that all of these people have read the article, but at the very least, the impact of collaborating with mass media is still quite significant. A few months ago, I started a new project called the School of Longevity Journalism in order to introduce more reporters to the topic. In October, there was a media forum in Sochi, and I chaired our first school there, and more than 50 reporters at once were informed about the developments in our field. Once again, one's lecture may not be enough for these people to become deeply engaged and start writing about aging research right away. However, I provided them with a list of experts and public activists who are involved in promoting aging research, so they actually can ask for a commentary or an interview or just some sort of help, which again increases the chances of publishing high quality material on aging. Again, the local activists in any country can undertake this kind of project in order to influence the public without a significant investment of funds or manpower or even time. The third workable strategy is to create opportunities to attract audiences and potential partners from other fields. Like Spandotai recently joined the initiative to promote open access by interviewing Alexandra Elbakian, the creator of Sci-Hub. This is a well-known public library of scientific literature. We contributed the footage to Paywalls, the Business of Scholarship, which is a documentary about paywalls in academic publishing. These interviews have received tens of thousands of views on Live Spandotai's social media pages and elsewhere. And as a positive side effect, our President Keith Committee has been invited to the screening of the movie at the United Nations headquarters, which hopefully will help us to find new partners, influential partners, hopefully, who can help promote our cause. Another open door is my recent exchange with the community of death cafes, which are meetings where people are encouraged to talk about death over a cup of tea with a cake. And the people who come to death cafes are ready to discuss all sorts of matters related to death and causes of death, and obviously the potential of rejuvenation technologies as well, as many of them perceive death and causes of death, such as aging, as a problem. The conversation at the death cafe will require you to be quite tactful. However, telling your personal story there, telling it to these people might have a very large impact. You see that death cafes are currently a very interesting topic to the journalists. So actually, I caused the idea of life extension to appear in one article already without any effort on my part, just because a reporter was there at the death cafe and decided to write about it. The article has got around 8,000 views online, and 700,000 paper copies of this particular edition were released to the public. So we may expect some impact. Now, each of these strategies can be reproduced by the local life extension community, and I really cannot underline it more. Each of them allow us to engage or influence millions of people instead of hundreds. The bigger the audience of your partners, the greater the numbers of people who can potentially join us in our battle against aging. This is why we really need to assess the potential impact of any new project before we try to decide if it's worth our time or not. Because remember, our time is actually pretty limited. Now let's discuss the last topic, infrastructure. When we let people know about rejuvenation research for the first time and they become interested, their next logical step is to look for like-minded people and start digging to find more information about it. Therefore, our activities should bring them to other resources that offer the information they seek and give them the tools that they need. For example, 2 years ago, we started our research blog from scratch. Once we established a pipeline of content production, mostly thanks to my amazing colleagues Steve Hill and Nicola Bagala, we started to post it to our Facebook page, and over there it's automatically fed into Twitter. Our Twitter actually grew from 5 to almost 8,000 subscribers without any additional effort on the part of our team. The number of subscribers who liked our page on Facebook is growing steadily, and right now it makes 111,000. From Facebook, people come to read our articles on the website, increasing our traffic, and a little bit of funds that we get from advertisement on the website goes back to supporting our growth on Facebook. We, of course, offer regular visitors the chance to subscribe to our newsletter, and they are now receiving it every second week. It's easy to share with friends. It has all the links to different social media websites and our partners. And we believe that sharing it around also helps us to acquire more subscribers. The most interesting thing right now is that most of our website's traffic is now organic, so we don't really depend on social media anymore. However, we keep growing our social media presence as an independent tool to educate and engage more people. So we have a journal club with Dr. Oliver Medvedev to discuss the latest scientific articles and engage young scientists to dig in. And we have short movies about aging research created specifically for Facebook. Not long ago we started the Rejuvenation Roadmap Roundup podcast in partnership with Ryan O'Shea, who is also the founder of Future Grind podcast. And not long ago we were blessed with the help of Florian Colvin, who is now developing our Instagram account, and to be completely honest, at a very impressive rate. I really like serious people who are using evidence-based approaches. So in 2 years, our website traffic has increased tenfold. In absolute numbers, it might not seem very big. Right now, we have around 30,000 visits per month. However, if we keep growing at this rate, in 2 years, it will be 300,000 per month. And that will be very helpful. One of our new infrastructure projects is an event kit for grassroots activists. It provides the members of the community with a guide on how to organize a local event. And we also provide a set of materials that is ready to be used to give a talk or to organize a discussion on aging research. Last but not least, this year we launched our longevity investor network to support rejuvenation biotechnology startups that have achieved enough progress to be appealing to investors. And my colleague Javier Norris is currently hosting pitch sessions every month. And please let me know if you are interested to join in from whatever side. So as you can see, the starting point here was to create the infrastructure, and that's very helpful to attract people of all sorts and begin collaborations of all sorts. I hope that our experience can inspire others and encourage hesitant people to become more active. Each of the projects that I have listed can actually be easily performed locally. But if you do not plan to start your own project, please consider supporting us, joining us as a volunteer or supporting us as a lifespan hero with a recurring donation. You can find out more about that at our website, www.lifespan.io/hero. And every donation will boost our growth, and we focus this additional energy into fostering the development of rejuvenation therapies. Of course, there are many ways how you can support us by reposting the news on Facebook, sharing with friends, talking to friends, and so on. So there are a million opportunities. So in summary, we really need the cures for aging. We really need governmental funding for rejuvenation research. And therefore, we really need to inform millions of people in our countries, and we need to do it as fast as possible. I can assure you that so far we are among the only people on the planet that aspire to a future free from age-related diseases and actually believe that it's possible. This ageless and hopefully very healthy future that most other people have not yet seriously considered. Therefore, it's our task to let them know, and we have to accomplish this task as best we can. Therefore, I'd like you all to take home this message. We should remember our most important requirements for success, such as a well-tailored message, a focus on projects that provide a largest reach, and the development of an infrastructure that welcomes the new members of our community, helps them to learn and helps them to engage in grassroots activities. I'd like to thank everyone I'm working with for their help with this presentation, and of course for all of our achievements that would not be possible without their contributions. In the end, the secret ingredient for success are human genius and the human heart. And I believe strongly that if we rely on this, then we will have a better chance of enjoying healthy and hopefully very, very long lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much.